She said she wanted a sensitive man, a caring, present guy who would listen to her and respect her space. You believed her. You believed when they said being kind was enough, that it was enough to be polite, have good intentions, and show that you would put her first. And then, she fell in love. But not with you. It was with that guy who didn't respond right away, who canceled dates at the last minute, who made her feel like she was one step away from losing him all the time. What you call a jerk, her brain calls a challenge. It's not fair, is it? But it's real. The real world, especially the world of human relationships, doesn't operate according to the rules you were taught in school or church. Seduction, desire, power, all obey much older, visceral, and brutal laws. And that's why Niccolò Machiavelli became so dangerous. He was the first to have the courage to tell the truth that nobody wanted to hear. The world doesn't belong to the good, it belongs to the strategists. The phrase is his, but the pain is yours. Machiavelli wrote The Prince to expose the game of power, and what he revealed is as applicable to the field of politics as it is to that of attraction. That's why this video isn't about being evil for the sake of pure evil. It's about abandoning the illusion that being nice is an effective strategy. It's about accepting that if you're not a player, you'll be played. Because the world doesn't reward intention, it rewards impact. It rewards presence, ambiguity, emotional mastery. It rewards the man who has learned to be desired without needing to beg for attention. And this is where the bad boy comes in. Not as an American movie stereotype, but as a strategic archetype. The man who understood, instinctively or through study, that perceived value lies in scarcity, mystery, and control. The bad boy is what Machiavelli would call a man who knows how not to be good when necessary. He is not a villain, he is a master of time, absence, and narrative. And that's why, when he enters the scene, all eyes follow him. But beware. This isn't about becoming an idiot. It's not about acting disrespectfully or adopting a false pose. It's about accessing what society has domesticated in you, your capacity to be wild when necessary, to set boundaries, to be desired before desiring. Because desire doesn't spring from what is obvious. It springs from doubt, from tension, from risk. Machiavelli said that the prince must learn not to always be good, for he will fall among the many who are not. This phrase isn't just political. It's sexual, it's social, it's personal. How many times have you been too good and ended up alone? How many times have you given in and lost respect? That's why this video is a revolution. Over the next few minutes, you'll understand why the nice guys are punished and the strategists are rewarded. You'll delve into the psychological roots of attraction. You'll understand why the bad boy wins and how you can embody that essence without losing your integrity. But to do that, you'll need to let go of the image you've built of yourself. You'll need to face the discomfort of realizing that the world doesn't value your kindness unless it comes with power. Unless it's a choice and not your only option. You were taught to be the right guy, to be polite, present, generous, to listen without interrupting, to ask if she's okay, to pay for dinner and make sure she knows you're not like the others. But what nobody told you is that, in the realm of attraction, predictability kills desire. And that, no matter what they say, there's a high price to pay for being too good. The price of being seen as weak. In the female imagination, the nice guy isn't hated. He's invisible. He's the best friend, the great catch, the guy they describe as a sweetheart, but who never generates tension, never triggers that flutter in the stomach, never awakens the instinct that says, I want him now. And that's the fatal mistake. Because desire is an instinct, and instincts aren't seduced by logic. They're activated by contrast, mystery, and presence. The nice guy, however well-intentioned, acts as if love were a rational process, a kind of emotional job interview where he tries to qualify as the best candidate. And this is where Machiavelli strikes at his innocence. He wrote, "A man who wishes to do good in every respect inevitably ends up ruined among so many who are not good." This phrase should be engraved on the soul of every man who has ever been rejected after giving his all. Because it's not just an observation about politics, it's an X-ray of the social dynamics that define who dominates and who is dominated. And yes, this applies to seduction. The man who tries to be good all the time, who never confronts, never asserts himself, never creates tension, ends up being devoured by those who don't play by the same rules. The root of this nice guy behavior is not kindness, it's fear. Fear of being rejected, fear of displeasing, fear of seeming arrogant or macho. He adapts to everything. He recalculates his opinions so as not to offend. He tolerates her indecision with a smile. And worse, he confuses this with virtue. But what he's doing, in practice, is abdicating his own center of gravity. He becomes an emotional satellite orbiting the woman, waiting for approval, waiting for a sign that now he will be loved. And this creates a brutal dynamic. The more he gives, the less value he has. The human brain, and this is pure neuroscience, associates value with what is scarce, what is difficult to obtain, what brings intermittent reward. The nice guy gives everything away in the first conversation. He reveals his feelings ahead of time. He anticipates her desires and tries to fulfill them without her asking. He takes away her pleasure of desiring, because he has already given himself entirely. He has already emotionally knelt without even knowing if she admires him. This is the opposite of seduction. This is submission. Think of all the romantic comedy movies. The pattern is always the same. The nice guy suffers, is left aside, is despised by the bad boy, until, in the end, when the girl has already been hurt, she goes back to the guy who was always there. That's fiction. In real life, she goes back to the bad boy again, because desire has no morality. It has chemistry, and chemistry isn't generated by gentleness, but by emotional intensity. Someone who is too intense in their gentleness becomes a cushion, not a magnet. Of course, this chapter isn't a defense of brutality. The goal isn't to create toxic men, but rather to warn that the opposite of toxicity, passivity, is also destructive. Because the nice guy isn't just ignored by women, he's also disrespected by men. He doesn't set boundaries. He doesn't make himself noticed. He lives in a posture of preemptive apologies, of justifying himself all the time, as if he had to ask permission to exist. He's the man who, deep down, believes he will be loved for not causing problems. But the world doesn't value the absence of problems. The world values impactful presence. And if you still doubt that the nice guy is disposable, observe how he's treated in social groups. He's the one everyone likes, but nobody listens to. He's invited to events, but rarely the center of conversation. He's always there, but rarely remembered. Because his presence doesn't change the atmosphere. He's emotionally neutral. And seduction is anything but neutrality. The French philosopher Denis Diderot once wrote, "If you want someone to die of boredom, tell them everything." And that's exactly what the nice guy does. He leaves no room for mystery, for playfulness, for creative tension. He's too transparent. He doesn't understand the power of the unspoken, of a firm gaze without explanation, of calculated absence. He's a victim of his own anxiety to be accepted. And in this haste, he gives away all his cards. He shows the whole game, and he loses. Even worse, he enters relationships with an attitude of emotional debt, as if every gesture of his were an investment that should return in love. He believes that by doing everything right, he will be rewarded with affection. But human relationships don't work like financial transactions. You can give everything and still be left, because desire doesn't operate on what is given, but on what is felt. And if you don't know how to provoke emotion, tension, challenge, even a hint of fear of losing you, you will just be another one in her memory. There's a concept in psychology called the emotional contrast effect. It shows that we are more impacted by those who make us oscillate between warmth and coldness, between presence and absence. The bad boy, often unknowingly, activates this effect. He disappears and reappears. He provokes and then falls silent. He praises but doesn't yield. He generates an emotional dance that the nice guy in his anxious predictability never manages to create. The nice guy delivers everything in a linear, safe, frictionless way. And this, paradoxically, makes everything boring. Machiavelli wasn't cynical, he was realistic. When he said that the prince must learn to be wicked when necessary, he was pointing to the need for balance between kindness and dominance. It's not about being cruel. It's about knowing how to set limits, about knowing when to say no, about knowing when to disappear when not valued. The good guy, for fear of losing, never sets this limit, and precisely for that reason, he loses. And before anyone says, but what about healthy relationships? What about true love? I tell you, yes, they exist. But even those are built on initial tension. Even the most lasting relationship began with a game, with a dance of glances, uncertainties, and discoveries. No one falls in love with someone who gives everything away in the first act. Love may be the destination, but desire is the road. And if you don't know how to travel it with mystery, with presence, with a dose of power, you'll never get there. And it's at this point that you need to make a radical choice. Continue being the nice guy who pleases everyone but lives frustrated and invisible, or become the man who provokes reactions, who knows how to assert himself, who isn't afraid of rejection because he's not begging for approval. The world and women don't respect those who beg. They respect those who take a stand. And the nice guy, however kind he may be, is seen as someone who needs too much. You don't need to stop being good, but you need to start being selective with your kindness. You need to learn to say no without guilt, to walk away without warning, to not respond to messages that don't deserve a response. You need to stop giving too much, too quickly. You need to understand that value isn't in what you offer, but in what you retain. And that respect is born not from submission, but from a firm presence. Society has trained you to be a servant, but you can train yourself to be a player. A man who doesn't apologize for existing, who doesn't need to please to be desired. He who doesn't fear losing because he knows his value lies not in pleasing, but in making an impact. And this man isn't the nice guy. This man is the strategist, the one who knows when to be sweet and when to be distant, when to be warm and when to be cold, when to yield and when to dominate. And it is at this crossroads that the archetype we will explore in the next chapter emerges. The bad boy. Not as a villain, but as the one who understood something the nice guy hasn't yet understood. That desire isn't born from comfort, but from tension. Of course, this sounds like heresy to those who grew up believing in the myth of the Prince Charming. But the truth is that this prince only exists in stories that end before the desire fades. Because, in real life, what sustains fascination isn't moral perfection, it's emotional suspense. And the bad boy doesn't offer security. He offers intensity. And intensity is what the human brain desires most. Neuroscience studies show that desire is intimately linked to dopamine, the neurotransmitter of anticipation. And the bad boy is a master at activating this chemistry. He's not always available. He doesn't respond immediately. He appears, creates a deep connection, and then disappears without explanation. He says less than he feels, does less than he promises, and that's why he fascinates. He doesn't deliver emotional security. He delivers controlled chaos. And chaos, when tempered with charm, is addictive. That's why women say things like, I know he's not good for me, but I can't walk away. Because the bad boy doesn't offer logic, he offers emotion. And in the realm of seduction, logic is useless. The rational mind can list all the reasons not to get involved, but the body has already decided. And that's something the nice guy never understood. You don't need to convince a woman, you need to affect her, and the bad boy affects her. He's a walking emotional experiment, and every woman remembers the experience that took her out of control. Machiavelli said that it is better to be feared than loved, if one cannot be both. This phrase, read superficially, seems brutal, but it hides a delicate truth. Respect precedes love. And the bad boy, even when he fails in affection, commands respect. He doesn't beg for attention. He doesn't lower his head for a look. He maintains his own axis, even in the face of rejection. And this silent power is interpreted as strength. A strength that seduces because it conveys independence. And independence is profoundly attractive. You may not like this. You may want to live in a world where kindness and honesty are enough. But that world doesn't exist. In the real world, the bad boy wins because he understands something the nice guy ignores. Human beings desire what they cannot control. The bad boy is the antidote to boredom. He activates the game, doubt, imagination. He invites you to a territory where the rules change, where emotions fluctuate, where the woman needs to adapt. And that's addictive. The bad boy doesn't need to be rich, handsome, or famous. He only needs to master 3 elements: ambiguity, emotional control, and freedom of choice. He is ambiguous because he never reveals everything. He maintains shadow zones, incomplete stories, disconcerting gestures. He is emotionally controlled because he doesn't react to provocation. He observes, remains silent, imposes his presence. And above all, he is free. He doesn't depend on the validation of others to feel valuable. And this freedom, this absence of need, is interpreted as power. Think of figures like Don Draper from Mad Men. He's not a model of ethics, but he's a master of presence. He enters a room and the room changes. His speech is minimal, his gaze intense. He listens more than he speaks, and when he speaks, everyone listens. This isn't just a well-written script. It's the modeling of an archetype that seduces through the absence of neediness. Draper doesn't ask, he doesn't explain, he doesn't chase, and that's why he runs through women's minds. Or think of Thomas Shelby from Peaky Blinders. He's a criminal, yes, but he's also an emotional strategist. His masculinity isn't in the shouting, it's in the gaze. He offers protection, but never without tension. He can give you the world today and disappear tomorrow. He creates an emotional environment where love is always accompanied by a slight fear. And this fear doesn't push away, it draws closer. Because instinct wants what it challenges. And Shelby, like a good bad boy, challenges even when he's silent. But don't think this is a privilege of fiction. Casanova, the historical seducer, was a master of anticipation. He made women feel unique, yes, but never completely secure. He told stories that left gaps. He would disappear for days and return with gifts, with poetry, with intensity. He knew that the female soul, when confronted with mystery, reacts with fascination. And that predictability kills any romance even before the first kiss. The bad boy is, at heart, a force of social nature. He is unpredictable, not out of immaturity, but out of unconscious strategy. He doesn't give everything away. He makes you wonder. He makes you imagine. And that's where desire is born, in the absence of completeness. When everything is on display, the fascination dies. But when there is doubt, when there is a gap, the mind works, the body responds, desire grows. And that's what the nice guy never understood. He wants to be so transparent that he becomes invisible. The bad boy, on the other hand, is opaque. And that's why he's magnetic. It's important to say, the true bad boy isn't aggressive. He isn't rude. He's selective. He doesn't impose himself by force, but by presence. He doesn't shout. He remains silent. And his silence weighs more than the speeches of others, because he doesn't need to prove anything. He's the opposite of the man who justifies himself. He's the presence that doesn't ask permission. And that's why he seduces. Because his presence says, I know who I am, you decide if you can stand being here. This is pure Machiavelli. A prudent man should take the long roads when he is obliged to, but always with control. The bad boy controls his own energy. He knows when to approach and when to disappear. He knows when to provoke and when to remain silent. He doesn't play to win once. He plays to be remembered. And in the field of seduction, being remembered is more important than being loved. Because love can end. But fascination sticks in the memory. A woman who has been in a relationship with a bad boy may even hate him. But she will think about him. She will compare others to him. She will ask herself, why do I still think about that idiot? Because it wasn't idiocy. It was emotional strategy. It was contrast. It was intensity. It was the effect of the unpredictable on a brain accustomed to sameness. And that's not malice. That's understanding human nature. You might even say, but he treated her badly. Maybe, but you too have been treated kindly and forgotten in 2 days. The point isn't about right or wrong, it's about impact. And impact is what the bad boy leaves behind, because he learned that the world doesn't only value virtues, it values experiences, and he became one. This is the point where men need to mature, to stop believing that being kind, present, and polite is enough. These are prerequisites for coexistence. They are not elements of fascination. Fascination requires art. It requires managing presence. It demands mastery of nonverbal language, timing, and silence. The bad boy understands this. That's why he doesn't rush. He creates doubt. He disappears at the peak. He delivers less than he promises, and therefore promises more than he delivers. If you want to be remembered, learn to exit the scene at the climax. If you want to be desired, learn not to explain yourself. If you want to be respected, learn to set boundaries with your gaze. That's what it means to be a true bad boy. It's not about hurting, it's about impacting. It's not about manipulating, it's about mastering your own energy and turning it into a selective storm. You understand why nice guys fail. You've delved into the brutal psyche of the bad boy. You've learned the Machiavellian principles behind desire. And now you have two options. Close this video, go back to your routine, and continue being just another player in the social game. Or make the decision that will redefine your presence, your power, and your ability to provoke desire anywhere, in anyone. And that's exactly why the next step isn't just logical. It's necessary. If you want to master the art of irresistible presence, if you want to learn how to trigger desire in less than 60 seconds and leave such a deep impression that she'll miss you before she even gets to know you properly, then you need to know the manual that was made for this. I present to you Forbidden Manual: How to Trigger Desire in 60 Seconds. The complete audiobook that reveals, uncensored, the psychological tactics, emotional triggers, and hidden patterns used by the most seductive men on the planet. This isn't just another shallow course of ready-made phrases. It's a forbidden manual, and forbidden because it reveals what many prefer to hide: the true map of the female mind, strategic body language, and the creation of instant sexual tension. If you've made it this far, you're no longer an ordinary man. But if you want to become an unforgettable man, the journey begins now. Click the button, access the audiobook, and master the game from the inside out. Because the next time she looks at you, she won't be able to stop thinking about you. This is the manual that transforms ordinary men into social legends. Click, or remain just another one.